All right, we're going live here with a follow-up from our earlier stream. I have obtained 4 of these 20 megabyte Tandon hard drives because I intend to maintain this top ComputerLand BC88 with a working 20 megabyte Tandon hard drive for as long as I can. And I currently have this one working in it. And I have 3 others that don't work. Well, I had 3 others that don't work. Now I have 4 more to add to the collection. And it's getting harder and harder to keep these working and find these working. I'm always keeping an eye out for more because I'd like to have spare working drives to try and maintain this working fully vintage for as long as I can. And I, don't know how that's going to work. Dune right again. He said hard. So I think Dune missed the earlier stream where I have the 4 20 megabyte Tandon hard drives that I bought off of eBay from the same seller. He was asking 25 each, as is untested. I talked him down to 20 each plus combined shipping. And one of them we tried earlier, and it spins up. It makes all the right sounds. It doesn't make any grinding sounds that indicate a problem with the platters. The hard drive controller detects it, but the operating system does not. DOS 2.11 will try to create a partition on it and does not give an error. Yet, after completing the partitioning, it still does not see a valid partition to format. DOS 3.30 won't even try to partition it. So there must be something that 3.30 is verifying that 2.11 isn't. I don't know. I took a moment before streaming just to verify I had my cables connected correctly and my controller is still working because I reconnected this known working drive and everything still boots up to this drive. Everything works. So I know everything in here works and I know this works. So that's another important step in troubleshooting is having known working hardware and verifying that the known working hardware is still working. And I've done that step. So I know this computer works, the hard drive controller in it works, the cables work. Now we come to these 2 untested unknown drives because I don't know what we're going to do with the one that we tested earlier. My best guess there is, my best hope there is that it's a problem with the board connected on the drive because I figured out how to detach the boards from these drives, which means that I could swap it with a board from another drive, possibly, and do a little mixing and matching. Now, I had 3 more drives I needed to solder power connectors on. I have 2 here that I went and soldered the power connectors onto, so they're all ready to go. Why did I only solder power connectors onto 2 of them? Because the last drive has a broken ribbon cable between the board and the platters. And the ribbon cable actually goes into the closed seam into the chamber with the platters. So I don't have a good way to fix that broken ribbon cable without doing some serious hard drive damage. So that drive goes to the side for now for a future time. At some point, I'm going to play around with opening up the platter chamber of a known bad drive that I have no hope of fixing just to poke around and get familiar with it. My thought is if I want to long-term keep this computer working with vintage hard drives that are just going to keep failing on me, at some point I'm going to need to figure out how to create some sort of a clean chamber or a clean environment to get better at working on these drives and actually get into that chamber. So that's a parts drive or a broken drive for the future. But for now, I got these 2 drives ready to connect onto known working hardware to see what we can make these do. So let's start with this one and see what we get. And we want to have our stripe pointing away from the power connector. towards the keyed side of the connector. All right, we got those ribbon cables connected. We now need to connect our power. And remember, I've not had it happen with this model drive, but I have had MFM hard drives powered up for the first time in decades that resulted in the capacitor shooting a flame that had to be blown out. So we're going to want to get a good look at this. And I'm probably going to want to try to... maybe I need longer ribbon cables. I really don't want a flame to shoot into this floppy drive. Oh, I'm sure it'll... 3, 2, 1. Whoa! I did not plan that. Okay, so that drive has a bad capacitor. Did that come across in the video? We're gonna have to replay that. All right, we're not powering this one on anymore. and my God, where is my marker? That needs to get labeled. That we're marking that. All right, let's see. I thought I had a marker here. All right, let me find a marker to write, because I want to write down that one sparked. All right. Sparked. Exclamation point. And we want to do that because the other hard drive I had that did that, it did that twice. Because it did that for the guy that sold it to me, and then it did it for me, which means there might be another capacitor on there that's like, ooh, me too. All right, there we go. We have labeled it sparked, exclamation point. So now I'll remember, this is the one that had a capacitor that went poof. So I need to take the board off of that and see what's charred. Basically, probably before I plug this one in again, I'm either going to swap the board on it, or I'm going to find the value of all the tantalum capacitors on there, order tantalum capacitors of those values, and just recap the whole board, which is something I believe I should be able to do relatively easily. So now, what are the chances that a second drive will do the same thing? Well, it came in the same batch and is of the same age and probably could have been manufactured in the same batch with that one. So the chances of this one sparking like that are better than I like. However, I will say that is the first time I've had a drive of this model do that. And I've played with other drives of this model. So I think it's more likely to not spark than spark, but I don't like my odds. Okay, that was fun. I hope that came across on the video. All right, so let's connect our ribbon cables. Get those firmly in there. And let's get our power cable. All right. 3, 2, 1. No spark, but the motor's not spinning up. So we don't got anything on this one yet. And we're probably going to get a 1701 error coming up on the monitor here shortly, because If the hard drive's not spinning up, the controller don't have anything to detect or check in with correctly. And there it is, 1701. Okay. Let's see how good our... Okay, that stepper motor does not turn very easily. So we might need to put a few more drops of oil in this one. Oh, there we go. Actually, it is moving now. So let me move it back and forth a little bit. Let's give that another try. There we go. It's making all the right sounds now. And it's still spinning. It hasn't shut down. Let's see if we get our RAM test without a 1701. RAM test running. No 1701 error. Our controller has checked in. Computer thinks everything is A-OK. Now let's see if the OS can communicate with it. Well, let's see if there's anything bootable on it. It's blinking, but it don't see anything to boot to there. So let's get our DOS 3.30 disk out and let's boot to floppy. Because there's nothing to boot to there. And we don't know that there's anything to boot to there. So there we go. We'll put in the floppy, get to an OS. And from there, we'll see if we can browse to it or partition it or format it. Okay, January 1st, 1980. No, it is June 6, 2026. And it is 2002. All right. No C drive present to browse to, so it can't read what's on the drive. Let's see. What did Dune write in? Dune wrote in, I heard the reaction, but missed seeing it. There was definitely an orange pop that emitted from the drive. It made a pop sound, an orange poof. So one of the capacitors blew in a bit of a flame, a very brief flame that didn't stay lit and didn't need to be blown out. But still, it was, we'll have to check the replay. Maybe tomorrow if we're doing the show or not tomorrow. But if not tomorrow, then Monday, we'll certainly have to get the replay. Might have to zoom in on that, do a little frame freeze, see if we can see that orange glow for a frame. Anyways, now as I've rambled on about before, as cool as it would be to try to recover or retrieve data off these drives, since it's just unknown, they're likely business drives with business software on them. I've very rarely found anything exciting. Maybe if you, I mean, to me, exciting is vintage games, and most vintage PC games have been archived. Business software, usually you can't do anything with it because the data was on a server or it's data that's not very fun, you know? So I really don't have much of a motivation to put a whole lot of effort into trying to retrieve the data if the normal easy measures can't retrieve it. So why can I not browse whatever's on this drive? The drive could have been formatted or wiped when it was taken out of service. The drive could have just lost its, it could have lost the bits and need a reformat. That does happen. Or it could have been formatted or configured to a different model controller, and it's just not formatted in a way that's compatible with the controller we have in this machine. So I'm perfectly fine giving up on trying to retrieve data. I know nothing about this drive's history, and there's nothing of interest there to me, really, other than curiosity. So we're going to run fdisk, and we're going to see if fdisk can detect the drive and try to format it. No, fdisk is not reading the drive. So we're going to try to do a low-level format and see if that can do it. So we're going to put in our DOS disk number 2. That's what we're going to do. And we're going to run debug. And we're going to run the command off of that of, let me look this up. G equals C800 colon 5. G equals C800 colon 5, comma 8. No, just kidding. All right, Super BIOS formatter. Current drive is C. Return for current. Current to leave is 3. Return. No, we are not dynamically. Yes. And error completion code 80. System will now restart. Basically, that's the exact same thing we got on the first drive. So I'm really not sure why these drives are failing to communicate with our control, with our OS, when the controller is checking in with them fine. There's one thing I can think to check. I didn't check the jumpers on this one to make sure they were all in the right position. So we're going to power down and we're going to disconnect our connectors. And we're going to take a little look-see. And that has the jumper right where I expect it to be, and it has the end termination attached to it. So everything here is as it should be. I'm a little thrown off that 2 of these drives have failed in the same way, in that they spin up, they don't produce an error on the controller, yet it feels as if the OS isn't even trying to communicate with them. There's something weird going on with that drive I'm looking at on my chair. The pins are sticking out of it more than they ought to be. Well, that's from earlier when I was trying to... So yeah, that is just weird that... So I think what we could do is we can maybe... What I'd like to do is to put a known working board on these and see if that helps us. So let's get a known working board. Where can we get a known working board? Well, we could take the board off of this drive, but I don't know that I really want to disassemble my only known working drive. This drive, what does this drive do? This is one of the drives that we were playing with on the stream like earlier in the week, where we could kind of get it to boot, but we couldn't get it to format, but the platters were making grinding sounds. So I think the problems exist inside here. So I think the board on here is good. Oh, this board needs my Torx screwdriver. So let's do a little board transplanting. Need to go get on my Crocs because we're going to go in the basement. I don't go in the basement barefoot. You know what that means? That means right now Dune has visions of me sliding bare feet into Crocs. You're welcome. Okay. All right, let's see what we got going on here. Hello, StreamYard. We're in the basement. Doing writing ed could be an old client list from a small family unconventional load business or trash service. Yeah, you never know. All right, so this drive is the drive with the broken ribbon cable. So over here, the ribbon cable, it's that thin, flimsy orange ribbon cable, and it just cracked. And I'm not sure how one would solder onto that, since it's this like flat, paper thin ribbon connection. I don't know if you could like get into that and add new connectors onto that, but we're going to put that to the side for a future project when we get to the point of getting more involved in things. So actually, you know what I have here? I have here another drive that I was disassembling. This board, I think, is probably as good as the board on this. So I'm going to put this to the side as well. And we're going to take this board and put it onto this drive. And we're going to see if that makes any difference, is what we're going to do. So let me find the right Torx adapter to take the screws out. Oh wait, this one is that Phillips? I think that might be a Phillips. I don't have my glasses on right now, so yeah, that one's Phillips actually. Oh, lovely, beautiful. Phillips screws. Half of these drives have Phillips screws, half of them have Torx, just to keep you on your toes. Doing right again, knee whack, pawn, and loan. All right, so it's as simple as 3 screws and a few connectors to get these boards off. Screw number 2, and then over here, screw number 3. And get in there with a little screwdriver to try to get the connector off without messing up any pins. Okay, get that connector off. That comes to the side. It swings over. Take out our LED connector, our ribbon connector. Now we'll get the LED. There we go. So I don't know. Maybe there's a problem on the boards of both of these. I mean, heck, one of them had a capacitor that blew out. Maybe these have capacitors that are shorting in not as explosive ways. I don't know. But I do know that these 2 drives, at points in times, I was partially getting data written and reading off of them, and then they stopped working and made bad sounds. So that gives me reason to suspect that these boards are good. Of course, the ultimate test would be to take the board off of my one known working hard drive. I just really am worried about damaging that drive. I mean, heck, I might rip the ribbon connector. I don't know how easy that is to happen, but now that I have one drive with that ribbon connector, I should probably get the LED connector on there before I get the, all right, so we'll get the LED in there. There we go. I'll put the ribbon connector onto those pins there. Okay. That connector on there. That connector onto there. And put that connector over on there. Get a good look at that. There we go. Okay. Now we put our 3 screws back in. All right. And remember, if we get one of these drives working, it makes it totally worth the $80 plus shipping I paid for the 4 drives. So let's see if we can make that purchase worth it. Because right now, I'm looking at $80 worth of broken hardware that makes cool sounds. That's what it's looking like currently. But there is some promise. So come back over to the BC88. All right. Let's connect our cables. It goes on in that direction. And we'll connect our power connector. I doubt we're going to be seeing any further sparks tonight because this is a board that we've powered up previously multiple times. So, should be rather boring. 3, 2, 1, go. Huh. So it's acting a lot like the other drives are acting. So maybe we got a bad board here. Did I lose track of what drive I was? Did I actually take it off and put it back on the same drive? No, I couldn't have because the drive I took it off of had a label on it. This doesn't. So maybe this board is bad because I'm getting the grinding sounds I was getting off. So maybe it wasn't grinding platters. Maybe it really is. There's something electrically wrong with that board. Yeah, that is, huh. It's trying to boot up though, whereas the other one was really not trying all that hard. But then again, maybe the noises it's making makes me notice it more. All right, let's boot to floppy because it's just not seeing anything there to boot up to. We might get to the point of transplanting the known working board, and we might find out that we have one good board, which would not be the worst news because the boards are things that you could work on and repair without needing a clean room. So if we find out that our one board works with multiple platters, that would mean we have multiple working platters and we have fixable, potentially repairable equipment. Of course, these are lots of ifs. Okay. Does not like the C drive. Can't find a fixed disk to read. And I doubt we're going to be able to low-level format it, but we may as well try. what is it? C equals something. G equals C800:5. Okay, so we have the same behavior here as we had with the previous board, and I think we also had the same behavior. You know what we need to do? Just like I said earlier, the key to troubleshooting is working with known working parts and known working hardware against what you're testing. We're trying to test a bunch of unknown drives and unknown parts of those unknown drives. Right here, we have a working drive. So I think what we need to do is we need to transplant this board onto a potential platter. So let's put that back there. Let's stick with this platter. Let's label our working drive so that we can make sure we put everything back in the right way at the end of this. All right. All right, so that's our working drive. And this is our working board. And one way we're going to keep track of this is this board has a zip tie on it, and the other drives I've been working with don't. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put a dot on this label here. And that way I can keep track that that's our known working board. I don't want to lose track of these things. All right, so we're going to put our known working board from our known working drive onto this unknown platter that is spinning up and not making bad grinding sounds. And we're going to put this board back with the drive it was attached to. Now we know that that board acts the same with multiple platters, and I'm going to start figuring out what tantalum capacitors I need to start buying and start refurbishing some of these boards. Because I may as well do as much of this as I can while I have a known working drive, because I have a working platter I could test these boards on that I try to fix up. And I got a working platter to try to test. I got a working board to test other platters on. So as soon as one of those two things breaks, it's going to get a lot harder to troubleshoot this stuff. Okay. Let's see what we're doing here. This is our working drive. I'm going to put that there. This is the drive that we're testing. So we're going to take this board off. Where's the board I took off of this one? Oh, there it is. All right. So let's get our connectors off of here. There we go. No, don't want to do that. The ribbon cable is very Okay. All right. So this goes to that drive. Put that back together another time because I don't even know if we want to or not. Okay. Now, here's our known working drive, which means we have a known working board. So let's Torx. Too small. Too small. Just right. Okay. Let's see what doing some writing in. NEWAC Pawn and Loan. Hey, do I spy basement speakers? Oh, yeah. They're connected to an 8-track player that's got some whoa issues, though. And right now my laptop is resting on top of a 8-track AM/FM amplifier that I'm recapping that I hope to turn into the basement sound system. I'll probably hook up a Bluetooth adapter to that tomorrow morning so I can actually listen to tunes that don't make me cry. Wow, you could do that without glasses. Nobody likes you. Yeah, my glasses are mainly for reading. Although I do usually put them on when I'm doing stuff in the basement here, especially when I'm soldering small connections. But I also have this handy thing to help me with soldering. All right. Oh, this has got things on it to make it not stand up nicely. Mounting equipment to mount it into the computer it goes in. So I can't stand it up nicely and rest it while trying to take these adapters off. There we go. Being a little extra cautious on this one. I really, if I break this, I'm in bad shape. Come on. There we go. Okay. Huh. How does the LED work on this one? The LED works on this one, but it doesn't have an LED connection. But the LED works on this one. I've seen that LED light up, but it's not connected to anything. How is that working? Okay, interesting. This board doesn't have LED connectors pins on it in the same place. This board's a little different from all the other boards. I wonder if this is a later model and that's why this one is held up better than all the others. I don't know. I don't know what to make of that. And I don't know if these pins are for LED or something else. But I'm not going to connect them without knowing what they are. Okay. So this is our working platter. We're going to put that, we're going to leave that on the bench because before we go to bed tonight, we're putting that all back together and back into that computer. But now we're going to see if we can get this board to work on a different platter. All right, so we're going to connect the ribbon cable over here. All right. Now we're going to connect these three connectors. Okay. There we go. Slightly different board, but the screws all align in the same place. I'm going to use the Phillips screws that I have loose on this, just because I know we're probably going to take these out at the end of the night and put everything back where it once was. There we go. That's aligning into place now. There we go. Why am I struggling to get this? Oh, wow. This actually doesn't quite align perfectly. Huh. Where am I? Because it should. Man, I might not. Are the threads different on this board? Yeah. Huh. Well, that screw is the same. All right, let's back this out. Huh, my one working drive seems to be slightly different from all my other drives. I don't think that's a coincidence. Now, are two of these screws different? Let's see if we can. No, we still can't. What the heck is going on here? Okay. That should go in there. There we go. There we go. Now we're getting our screws in. All right. There we go. Okay, that's in. That's in. So these screws need to stay with this platter, which is our. No, these screws need to stay. Well, wait a minute. Yeah, I'm screwing into the, okay, this doesn't make any sense. Why are my screws acting differently? Oh, there we go. I think I was just having problems lining things up. Maybe it's because I'm not wearing glasses. All right. So we have a known working board connected to a platter that spun up fine with the controller, with the board that was connected to it, but could not be read, and then spun up weirdly with this board off of another drive that was spinning weirdly, suggesting that this board needs work. So now we'll find out if this platter works, because we know this board works. All right, let's go back upstairs. Let's plug the laptop into power. All right, Mars is here. He got the British one, all those metric screws. Yes, that was my clean room. No. That's probably the least clean room in the place. Okay. So now we're going to connect these cables. Like that. And get the power connector on here. And now let's see what we get. All right, maybe there is something wrong with the platter in there. Although it wasn't making those noises for the first board. Huh. All right, let's try it again. All right, that platter makes a noise and doesn't spin up good. Well, that's weird because this is a known good board. And with the other board, it was making noises, but it was at least spinning up and starting up. All right. Well, maybe these boards don't transplant that well. I really don't know. I need to start talking to old retired techs is what I need to do. One more thing we're going to try tonight is we're going to try to transplant this known good board onto the first drive that we were playing with before dinner. Because that one was certainly making good sounds and sounding promising. So let's see what happens if we get our known good board on that drive. Okay, take these screws out. There we go. Take our connectors off. Shit. Well, we're not going to test. Well, that's okay. We were done testing this platter anyways, but we broke our ribbon cable. But the most important thing is we didn't break our ribbon cable on the known working drive. So we need to figure out how to repair ribbon cables on these things. Okay, this board is the board that went with this drive. So we're going to put our ribbon cable connector on here. And we may as well connect everything else up. We may as well not, because it's going to have to be taken apart and fixed up at some future time. I was worried about that. I'm mainly worried about doing that on the known working drive. Yeah, we're going to have to figure out how to repair ribbon cables at some point in time. Because that ribbon cable goes inside the platter, which is where we're going to need to create some kind of a clean environment if we're going to open up in there and actually replace the full ribbon cable. But I'm hoping we could just like, you know, I know that Nintendo Virtual Boys have ribbon cables that have bad connectors on the end. And I think people have come up with methods to basically kind of eat away at the end of the ribbon cable to expose bare wires and then solder the bare wires directly to the connector. So maybe there's some process we could do there to try to add some new connector to the end of the ribbon cable. I don't know. That's going to take some research. That's a future project. So we're going to put that over here. Okay. Now, what were we doing? That's right. This drive is the drive from earlier. This drive's the known working drive. This drive is that one with that board. This is our known working board. Okay. All right. So we're going to take this board off. Trying to be careful about. Let me see if I can wedge that ribbon cable off before we start moving things around from here. If I could push it off without having to flip it up. Because if I could get the ribbon cable off before I have to start moving things around, that cuts down on our risk of breaking that ribbon cable. There we go. Okay, ribbon cable is off. Okay, now we can start playing with these. Okay, get that off. There we go. Put that there, put that back on later. Okay, this is our known good drive. Our known good board. All right, gonna put that ribbon cable on. I'm not sure I could get the ribbon cable on last. I can get it off first, but I don't think I can get it on last. Okay. Come on. There it goes. And we put that little connector on. I've gone from, this isn't too bad, 4 connectors or 5 connectors if you count the LED, to, man, couldn't they have just done this on 1 or 2? Because I've done this too many times today now. Okay. All right. We're in good shape there. So let's all right. Take these screws and put them back in. Heck. Let's put that screw in first, because that will make things stop moving around near the ribbon cable. I don't want to break another one of those. Okay, there we go. Now we can get these lined up. These screws are giving me trouble, but these are the same screws that came out of these holes. This board doesn't like lining up. What the heck is going on here? Okay, maybe that's where the hole is. No. Huh. Okay, there we go. I think I've just not been getting this rotated to the right position. Yep, there it is. Screw goes in the round hole. Okay. Now we got the platter from earlier today before dinner with our known working board. And this platter did spin up and acted like it was taking a partition, but then was not readable. And we got Mod Pro in the house. And Mars is having some biscuits and gravy. Mars writing in, oh, are you going to take apart a Nintendo Virtual Boy? I've taken it apart. I tried to do the oven trick on it to fix it. That didn't work. I have a virtual card micro SD reader, so I can like download the library to SD card and play like that, but I need to fix it up one of these days. And that's the problem. The Virtual Boy, I bought it when it failed and stores were practically giving them away. I kicked myself for not keeping the box. I held on to the box for a while, and then when I moved to Maine, I just threw out anything that was not important. And a box for a failed console was not important. I didn't even bring the Virtual Boy with me to Maine. I retrieved it years later. But yeah, I have it, and it turns on. One of the eyepieces kind of works. The other one kind of doesn't. And so it is repairable. I just have to do it one of these days. All right. Let's see. Speaking of repairing things, let's see if swapping a good board repaired this drive or not. Somehow I think that I suspect there's something more to replacing the board on a hard drive than just connecting it and turning it on. Maybe there's some calibrate, although I don't see calibratable parts on these boards. I don't know. But we shall see. All right. Three, two, one, go. It's making good sounds, although it made them a little slower than they normally do. But sometimes that happens when lubrication's still taking. But we don't have a 1701 error, and we have a spinning drive. I don't have a working LED to see what it's trying to do on the drive, but that's not required. But I don't think it's booting. So there's nothing on there bootable. So let's go ahead and put in a boot disk. All right. Hello, Momo. Momo wants her treats, doesn't she? Hey, Momo. Momo. People want to see you. Come here, Momo. Momo's not coming to my calling because Momo knows that the treats are in the opposite direction. Dune writes in, round? Lars writes in, why do you hate yourself by playing a Virtual Boy? Oh, virtual tennis was fun. Played that all the time. All right, what time is it? It is 20:53. There we go. Now, okay, so it doesn't see a valid C drive. F-disk doesn't see it. All right, this is just not looking very promising. I'm not sure why we have drives that are making good noises, are communicating with our controller, but just are not taking any formatting. I almost want to reformat the known working drive to see if I have some computer issue that it's reading the drive and it's not formatting it anymore. I guess I could do that with one of my spare Seagates. I think I have a Seagate that I wouldn't mind partitioning and formatting just to see if it could do it to any drive. I might have another Tandon floating around somewhere that, if I recall correctly, works, but is of a slightly different makeup that it sounds a little different. All right, well, let's debug. G equals C 800:5. Super BIOS formatter. Okay. Drive is C. Interleave is 3. Not doing it dynamically. Press Y. Error completion code 80. I keep getting an error completion code 80 on all these drives. I can't get a low-level format on them. I can't get a partition on them. I'm not sure why. If there's some... I mean, the fact that they're all failing and that two of them are making good sounds and failing in the same way suggests another problem, but I've confirmed that our known working drive works with all this hardware. So I don't have another point of failure that I could look at, another common point of failure, just that the two drives happen to fail in the same way. All right. Well, here, Momo. All right, where's my window? There it is. Mars writing in, Momo is a smart kitty. And how many red lines did you see after you played that game? And did you have a headache? No, I never got a headache from the Virtual Boy. Never really did. That was fine. Are you using a controller card on the machine? Could you try it in another slot if possible? I could try the controller in another slot. My objection to that troubleshooting step is that I've confirmed that the controller card and the ribbon cables and the slot all work perfectly fine on my known working hard drive. What I've not confirmed is that I can successfully format any drive, because it's not unusual that a drive would need to be formatted. And my working drive hasn't been formatted in years. So it's a process I've not tested on this machine in years. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move all the equipment back onto the right drives. And I'm going to find another spare drive that's also working and that we can format. And test that process again. Is what we're going to do. Because I know I have some working Seagate drives. The Seagate drives tend to be a bit more sturdy than the Tandons. All right. So the most important thing is that we get this controller board back on this known working platter and get our known working combination back together without breaking anything. That is the most important thing. Okay, so we're going to take these screws out. This board, oh, that's right, we got to take apart our connectors. Let's take off a ribbon connector. Gotta get all these connectors off. Okay, that board goes to that drive. This board came off of this drive. So we'll put this, may as well reconnect everything up, since when this was together, it was acting like it wanted to work. So there might be another common issue or other point of failure that we might end up getting this to work as is. So I'm going to put it all back together correctly. All right. There we go. Connector. That connector goes there. And hip bone connected to the other bone. The other bone connected to the other bone. The other bone connected to the wristwatch. Okay. And I'm going to take this drive upstairs to the side because this is a drive that's worth playing around with some. I'm going to leave this apart because since we determined that this board behaved similarly with another set of platters, I want to replace these tantalum capacitors on this board, connect it back up to this drive, see if we can get this drive working again. In fact, it almost, I was going to say it might almost be worth putting this board on this drive, but we've not had any luck with transplanting boards to other drives tonight. So I think we're going to give up on that process for now. So let's reconnect our ribbon cable here. For some reason, this version of the hardware does not have an LED cable, yet the LED works. So I'm not quite sure how that works. Okay, that goes there. That goes there. Well, that's right. We got the mounting side pieces on here that make it not stand well. Okay, board is connected. Now we got to put our screws back in. Those are these 3 screws here, which are Phillips. All right. Is anyone still in the house? Mars, Mod Pro, Dune, you all still out there? Have I put you to sleep yet? Because they're not quite done yet, but that doesn't mean you all have to stay here and watch me put screws in the places. Oh, Dune is here. Dune, do you know if we're doing a show tomorrow or not? May as well give Mars and Mod Pro a heads up as to whether they should be prepared or take a nice little evening nap. And, oh, I left my soldering iron on from earlier. Glad I glanced over to check that. So now we're going to go over to the other side of the basement and see if I can find a spare Seagate drive just so we can confirm that our formatting processes actually do work on working hardware, because I really don't want to reformat this drive. I could if it came down to it, but I don't want to do that today. I got a new XTIDE card coming in on Monday. And when that comes in, I can start backing things up and transferring data more easily to these things. All right, let's see. What do I have? Huh. You know, I forgot about this drive. This Tandon drive has a slightly different connector here on the stepper motor, and it sounds a little different. And I think it was working for a period of time, and I think it stopped working at some point. And I think it was bootable to a version of DOS 2.11 when I got it, but I'm not sure if I kept that on there or if I reformatted it. But I know somewhere I have a spare Seagate drive. I just don't remember where I put that. I might have put it in another box somewhere. got too much. Oh, wait, there's stuff in this box. Ah, here we go. There's one. Pretty sure this one works, and this is the one that I think I reformatted on earlier stream when I was demonstrating how to, because I remember that faceplate, that whole height faceplate on a half height drive. This I think came in the compact portable parts machine that was missing the keyboard. So that's a known working drive. I think this is also a known working drive. So I have a few known working MFM drives. It's just that most of my known working MFM drives are Seagate drives, and they just don't sound the same as the Tandons. So yeah, this, let's see what we can do with this. Let's see if this still works. And let's see if we can format this. Because that further confirms that our known working equipment really does work as I believe it does. Because it really feels like there's some other common point of failure I'm overlooking. My hands are full, so I'll have to come back for the known working drive after the stream and put everything back together again. All right. Well, let's see what we can get working, if we can get anything working tonight. I'm pretty sure I haven't done anything with this drive since the last time I streamed with it, which there is an old stream. I actually went back and reviewed for my own knowledge to confirm things. I did a stream where, as a demonstration on how to format these drives, I formatted this one, and then I installed DOS 3.30 on it. And I don't think I've done anything to this drive since then. So I believe this drive still has a bootable DOS 3.30 installation on it that will work with this machine. So we're going to go ahead and connect all our cables. Okay, come on. Got a piece of cardboard that just loves to get in my way every time I'm trying to slide these connectors onto the back there. Okay, and we need to connect the power. All right, let's see if this drive boots. Now, this drive's been sitting in the basement for about 2 years. So a capacitor could have gone bad, and we might see an explosion. And the exploding capacitors are right next to flammable cardboard. So we have that to look forward to. Nope, it's all good. All right. Yeah, these, it's too bad our family computer didn't have one of these model drives in it, because then that would be the sound I'd be nostalgic for. And these drives are much easier to find, much cheaper, and I've found way more working models of those. And yeah, it is booting up. It is booting up. And you know what we could do? We can hit enter, and not set a date and time. Oh, this drive has a menu on it. This is not the drive I thought. Oh my God. This is the drive that came in the first. This is the drive that came with this computer, but I've attached it to this faceplate because I've been maintaining this drive and not overwriting it. Because it's an interesting drive. It was a family computer that's running DOS 3.30 without a time clock, and most of the files in it are dated January 1st, 1980, which shows me a story of someone who brought home an outdated computer from work in the early 90s and used it for their home PC computer to type up projects. There's documents on here. It's an interesting story, or an interesting artifact from someone's family's history. And so I've kept that. Menu work screensaver. Huh. Anyways, we can exit out to DOS. And we can browse the A drive. And from here I can run RTC DRV space -S space 2026. Wrong expression? Huh. This is MS-DOS 3.30. It should be fine with the time card's data. Weird. It does not like the date that the time that's in the time card. All right. Well, anyways, this is not the drive I thought it was, so I do not want to try to format it. I need to go back and grab a different hard drive. But first, we're going to see what that other Tandon drive does. All right, this drive, someone sold me a drive on eBay. It didn't work. And then they sold me this one instead. And that was pretty early on. So like, it was one of those things where I was pretty sure the drive didn't work, but they're like, oh, we tested it though. You got to talk to our other guy who tests all the vintage stuff. And, you know, it was a lot of back and forth. I ended up getting 2 drives for the price of 1. Is what happened. Although the first drive worked and then stopped working shortly after, so I didn't feel very bad about getting 2 drives out of them. And then this one, I think, started giving me trouble, but I'm not 100% sure on that. This drive might actually still work. I'm kind of 50-50 on it. I think I had problems with it at one point in time, but I don't recall if the problems were actually the drive or something else. My memories of that are just vague enough to be thinking it's about 50-50 that this is going to work. But I was surprised to find that it booted up to DOS 2.11 despite having no idea what controller it was configured for. All right, motor's not spinning up. Let's give that another try. No, it's not happy. It's not. Oh man, it does not want to spin up. Oh, come on. Yeah, it does not make the same sounds as the others. That stepper motor is just not the same. So that's why I was never really happy with that one, even if it does work. It But if I recall correctly, it had a working OS on it. It doesn't seem to be booting now. All right. Let's put in our DOS disk. Wait a minute. Disk boot failure error. All right, let's try again. Come on. All right, let's try again to set the date and time with our real-time clock at BC88 S026. What the heck? I don't get that. All right. All right. Let's put that disk back in. All right, it is 2117. All right, not seeing the C drive. Error reading fixed disk. I don't like this. I can't get this to read any of my other Tandon drives. I know that drive was working when it spins up. So something weird is going on. Something fishy. There's some other point of failure I'm overlooking. It just doesn't explain why my working drive is working, though. And I confirmed right before going live with the stream that the working drive does work on this computer. So I should have, in theory, I have verified that the controller and the cables and this desktop all work. So that should give us the tools to zero in on the problem with the hard drive. So now I have a drive that I'm fairly confident should do something, doing nothing when it spins up. I'm going to try to low-level format this one. Well, that's new. All right. So I knew this drive was working when I last used it. I don't know what hard drive controller I was using it on. So it very well may have been when I had a different hard drive controller in this machine. And it very well may have been a controller that just happened to be compatible with the format that's on it. So this confirms that there's something wrong with those drives, that they won't take a format, and that this computer is capable of giving these drives a format. So all those people that took the smart bet of 4 dead drives, congratulations. But they're not all completely dead just yet. It really seems odd to me that they spin up, they make the right sounds, but I can't get them to take data, even with a known working board. I mean, it could be the heads went. So I don't know where to go from here. From here, I think what I need to do is start hitting the forums and hope there are some experts that could be intrigued that are still alive that could maybe, you know, the problem is I'm really looking for magic, and it's very rare that you find some unknown magic. It's like, I pretty much have the basics, even if I don't know the detailed knowledge. And really beyond this, it's, swapping what you can. And, it's just a dead drive, probably. But this formatting process runs a few minutes. It doesn't run for a few hours. So we should see something happening relatively soon here. It doesn't give us a progress bar, though. That would be too convenient. But we're still waiting for it to finish our low-level format. One thing I've learned about this process is that if you have a bad data cable between the drive and the controller, this process will take hours to time out. So I don't know how long you should wait to quit, but if you do like reach an hour and it's still doing its thing, you may as well quit. There's something wrong. But we should see something pop up here soon. The thing that is that I don't like this drive because it doesn't sound right, but it's my second working drive. I wonder if I could replace the stepper motor on it to turn it into a drive that sounds the way I want them to. Or it's a working board that maybe I can get working with something else. I don't know. All right, just want to make sure my cable wasn't loose or something. Well, anyways, something should happen soon. Okay, this is getting to the point where I'm questioning how much longer we need. Oh, there we go. Do you want to format bad tracks? No, I don't know of any bad tracks in this. Format successful. System will now restart. Insert DOS diskette in the drive A. All right, so we need to swap back to disk 1. Actually, you know what? I'm going to do something different. I am going to format this drive with ComputerLand DOS 211. Let me press the any key and we're rebooting. And we got a memory test running again with no error. There we go. Okay. And it is currently 125. Okay. So I believe the command is sys-c to make our. Oh wait, we got to format the this C drive is what we got to do. No, we got to partition it. Okay, so we got to do fdisk. There we go. Install MS-DOS partition. Do we wish to use the entire disk? Yes, we do. Press the any key, and we reboot again. So now we have a partition on the drive. Now we format C:, invalid drive specification, but we create a partition on there. What the fuck? MS-DOS partition already exists. Partition 1, status A, type MS-DOS. Huh. So it's create a partition on it, but it's not letting me format it. All right. I think there's something off with this DOS. But then again, this is a problem I was running into before as well. Maybe there's some compatibility issue with that controller. All right, let's reboot into DOS 3.30. Okay, 662026 2128. All right, so fdisk here sees a drive. All right, C drive 1 active, primary DOS. Okay, let's escape. Let's escape. Format C:. Huh. Format failure. What the fuck? Format failure. All right, there's something off with this drive. I'm going to try to low level format it again. Maybe there's something wrong with the well, no, I used this, didn't I? Yeah, I did. I low level format it with this, not with that. I didn't switch to that until after low level format. Huh. All right, let's fdisk. Let's try this again. Let's delete the partition. Let's create a new partition. Maybe there's something wrong with that disk. This is taking longer to make a partition than the last time we did this, which could be good or could be bad. I don't recall this process being slow. But the light is on, so it's trying to do something. Well, let's see if we got any good emails. Checking the emails. Fuck's sakes. Discogs is again mocking me on a daily basis. Someone's got a record on my watch list that they're asking $100 for that has only ever sold for 45, and I offered them that much, and they turned it down. And Discogs only lets you offer once, but it's still on my want list, and they still have it for sale. And so Discogs is still sending me daily emails saying, "Hey, these assholes that are asking way too much for this record you want are still asking way too much for it, and we will never let you send another lower offer for it ever again. And we will continue emailing you every day until we decide not to, and then decide to do it again. And the only way you can stop it is to completely unsubscribe from notification emails about things on your want list." It's like, damn, something else might show up on my list that I want a notification about. Yeah, this is weird. I don't think it should take this long to partition this drive. But let's put this drive back in the basement. Actually, I don't. I was going to say, let's get the other Seagate drive, but I don't. I don't know if I want to try to format another drive or call it a night. The stream is kind of. Feel like I've done as much as I can really do with these machines tonight. And is that stuck? You know what we could do? We can give the cats their treats while we're waiting for that to finish or fail. I think we got enough battery power for that. Come on, Momo. Here's the old lady. Come on. There you go. Come on, Momo. Shaniko relies a lot on smell to find her treats these days. No one leaps up and catches them in their mouth anymore. Not sure if I'll ever find another cat that does that. Ooh, stare down. Come on, Momo. Almost, Shaniko. You almost had it. Come on, Shaniko. Shaniko. All right. Let's see how that hard drive's doing. Okay, it is still not taking a partition. So maybe it doesn't like the fact that I deleted the partition and tried to create a new partition. And I don't think I should need to reboot before creating a partition. But let's fdisk again and take a look. Dune goes, was that cat Momo before Momo? No, the cat before Momo was Hestia. And Hestia would jump up and catch treats in her mouth. All right, so this still says there's a partition. I'm going to delete the partition. Now let's display information. No partitions defined. Okay. Create. All right. And it's probably, so there's probably something wrong with this. Well, it's making it sound like it's doing something. Okay, it is moving the heads. So while that's doing that, let's tend to our things in the basement and figure out what we need to tidy up to put everything back in its place. All right, this is our Sparky hard drive. This is a drive we don't want to format. So I think what we're going to do tomorrow, what I'm going to do tomorrow, is I'm going to review under my microscope all these capacitors and put a little part list together to order capacitors of all the values needed on these to replace them all, and figure out which capacitor burst on here. Because, I mean, and it might be worth trying to put one of the other boards on this drive and see what happens. So yeah, we're going to leave those there. Where's my known good drive? Okay, what is this drive? I'm going to put this over here. Okay, where's the known good drive? I need to find the known good drive. Crap. I put the known good drive down somewhere and now I don't know where it is. I thought I still had it on the bench here. I might have to review this video to figure out where I last had it. Did I bring it upstairs with me and put it down somewhere? I didn't think I had it upstairs with me. Could have sworn I went upstairs with the other 2 drives I grabbed from over there. Huh. Why the hell can't I find my other... I put it back together here. Maybe I carried it with me over there intending to bring it upstairs with me. I don't see it over here anywhere. Fuck. Oh, wait a minute. Working. I put it down right over here for safekeeping to pick it up and bring it up with me, and I didn't. Okay. But we are going to bring... I don't know what this drive is. I forget what it is at this point because I juggle things around so much. But we're going to take a look at this drive, maybe, if we can't get that drive that's up there partitioning to take a partition. And I think that's all we need from the basement for tonight. Oh, that drive needs to go back over on that. I'll do that tomorrow. I'll be back down here tomorrow to do some more things. Okay. I think this drive has some issues that it's rocking the heads back and forth and trying to redo processes until things time out and taking a really long time to come back with an error while trying to partition. So we could let this sit and see if the end result is that it eventually plots its way through. But even if it does, that doesn't bode well that normal processes would be error prone and take a lengthy amount of time to finish successfully. So I do think this drive is problematic. I haven't oiled this drive, so it could be some issues there with the stepper motor needing to be lubricated. It could be as simple as that, but it's probably not as simple as that. But this shows me that it's possible to get further along than we are on any of the drives that came in the package. So there clearly are some issues with those drives that the computer's not able to communicate. I think what I've learned about these drives is it's possible that you got the 2 ribbon cables that connect from the controller to the drive, the wider one and the narrower one. And the narrower one is the drive that actually transmits data. The wider one is the one that communicates with controlling the drive. And if the wider one is communicating adequately and the narrow one isn't, you won't get an error until you try to do something that requires actually... But then again, if that were the case, we wouldn't have been able to get a successful low-level format on this drive. And we absolutely did successfully get a low-level format on this drive. So I don't understand why a low-level format would take and then we can't partition it. Like, to me, that indicates that the drive's working, but that's just been my previous experience. I don't know. I've not worked with this era of equipment for long enough to really recognize the different types of failures as normal or abnormal. So I'm a little out of my element when it comes to troubleshooting this stuff. I'm not as much in my element as I am with current equipment and getting like modern equipment. I have a feel for how it's supposed to act. I have a feel for what different incorrect responses indicate. This stuff I'm still figuring out. So I'm just seeing failures in ways I haven't seen failures before, and I don't know what that means. All right, we're going to call it on this drive for now. This drive is just not quite all there, which is not all that surprising to me from what I recalled. But let's see what this drive does. Don't really remember which drive this is, or when I last, where it came from. This might be, I actually bought a drive like this at one point in time with plans of connecting it as a second hard drive inside the tower side, because these desktops had room for 4 drives, 3 front-facing bays and a sideways internal bay. So your hard drive doesn't have to have a faceplate out the front. You could just mount it internally. And so that makes sense that they've made room for dual floppies, a front-facing hard drive, an internal hard drive, because generally hard drive controllers had connections for 2 drives, and a floppy controller on this has connections for 2 floppy drives. So maxing these out, you could put 4 drives in them. And so I was going to try to do that to bring it up to 40 megabyte. And I had problems getting the controller to work nicely with 2 hard drives connected, even though I thought I had a problem with the hard. So I bought a drive like this off of eBay that had no faceplate, was internal, intending to pair it with another one with a front plate on one of these machines, and have the controller take 2 drives. And I remember I had some back and forth with the guy that sold me, I think, this drive, if I'm recalling correctly, that I thought it was bad. And he's like, no, I tested it, it's good. I'm like, well, it's not coming up for me now. He's like, well, you check your controller, you check it. And eventually I got it to work when I connected it. So I had the 2 drives I was trying to work. Each one would work by itself. Both spots on the controller would work, but I could never get them to work at the same time on the same controller. And I'm pretty sure I had all my jumpers and connections done right. So I gave up on it at that point, because it's like, why am I fighting for 40 megabytes of storage? Anyways, let's see what we got on here. Let's open up the floppy drive, see if we have anything bootable on this. Well, that's making some sounds. Okay, that's a good sound for that drive. So I don't, yep, no 1701, so we're good. The controller's happy with this drive. Bad or missing command interpreter. Well, that's a different one. All right, let's. Oh, you're not going to let me hit an any key? All right, we'll 3-finger salute you. We'll boot to floppy. I could have sworn I had all these drives working at one point in time, so I'm surprised I don't have anything, unless I still have that jumper as a secondary drive. I'm going to have to start digging up documentation on it. All right. Well, it reads it as a C drive. And we do have a DOS directory on here with all our DOS commands copied on here. Huh. But it's not seeing it as bootable. Interesting. All right, let's you know what? We got a good format on here. And this DOS was copied on here in 2021. So this has been sitting for 5 years. All right, let's delete that. Let's delete that off of there. Let's format this to be a bootable DOS 211 drive, because I have not done an install, which means that we should probably reboot and boot to the disk we're going to install from. Let's see. Wants to know if Momo's named after the Momo. Momo had that name when I found her at the shelter. But it was just too perfect. Since we have our favorite streamer named Momo, that I decided to keep it. And actually, you know what we're going to do? The whole reason we dug this drive out is to make sure we could do the whole process. So even though we have a good partition on here that's working right now, let's make sure we could actually do everything. So we're going to, and we're going to, and I really shouldn't do this because now I'm changing things, doing it from this disk instead of that disk, but let's do it anyways. Let's run our debug command. Let's do our low-level format on the disk. All right, it's going to take a few minutes, which is a good opportunity to go get our glass and wet our whistle. There we go. Emptied one bottle of seltzer. Got to put another one in. All right, so we're going to do the low-level format, reboot. We're going to run fdisk to create a partition, reboot. We're going to format the drive. We're going to install DOS 211 on it. And then we're going to try to set the, I think I accidentally messed up the time card. So I need to reset that. And what year do I want to set it to? What is the earliest year in 1900s? I can set the calendar to and have the month day align going forward for the longest, considering leap years. I think I was supposed to do a -R, and I did a -S, and I reset my time card by accident. So I got to fix that. All right, so I want to set the year to 1901. And that will put the time card on a year that will align to leap years going forward for a number of years. Do it right again. That is perfect. Yeah, exactly. That was perfect. Well, what was also perfect is she came to our shelter from a shelter in New Jersey. So she's a Jersey girl. Although the Momo streamer seems to be commuting from Jersey, but she refers to growing up in New York. So I don't think she'd want to be called a Jersey girl. But Momo's a Jersey girl. Momo the cat's a Jersey girl. Yeah, so, close enough. So yeah, this is the second time I've kind of documented this process on stream. The first time I actually was doing it with a VGA card in the tower so I could actually screen capture, because there's no easy way to really screen capture CG. Well, actually, I think that card has a composite output that I could capture. All right, no bad tracks that I know of. Drive disk in A, any key, and we are rebooting, and we're going to boot to our our ComputerLand DOS 211 disk. I'm probably going to eventually do this part on the working Tandon drive. There's not really a good reason to put this computer on DOS 211 when it runs DOS 3.30 perfectly fine, and DOS 3.30 is better than 211. But my whole goal with this computer was to make it as much like the family computer we had growing up as I can. And now that I have the original discs and books, that means that my working hard drive that is of the same model that was on the one we had growing up ought to be on the same OS. So I really do need to do that one of these days. All right, 66.026 and 2159. Okay, so now we low-leveled formatted it. Now we need to partition it. So we're going to fdisk. And now we're going to find out if fdisk is just completely broken, because we've multiple times had this fdisk run and say it's created partitions and no partition was present. But then also we've never got any time it didn't work here, it also didn't work on the 3.30 disk. So we haven't really proved or disproved anything yet. All right, let's list no partitions installed, but it does see a fixed disk. So we're gonna do one. And we're going to yes the entire disk. Okay, that again went really fast. That says to me that for some reason that fdisk command is not really doing anything. Maybe I got the syntax wrong in that. Maybe I need to specify the drive letter. I haven't had to do that on 330. All right. 66.226, 22 o'clock. Huh. Here's the thing I don't like. It sees a C drive even though we didn't format it. And we low-level formatted it. That should not be there. Let's format it anyways. I really think we're supposed to do a standard formatting at this point. All right. I was not expecting to be able to go to C drive after doing fdisk to create a partition and before formatting. That doesn't seem right. But these steps are working, and this formatting seems to be formatting the drive. The drive is lit up. We got a green light glowing over here. I don't think it's really coming across. So it is active, and it is formatting. But on Monday, I got an XTIDE card coming in because the one I had broke, and I tried to replace the chips on it, and I couldn't get it working again. So I gave up on that and just bought another. The one I bought is not even being made anymore. That company just disappeared. These are usually small time amateur type operations that make things like these. But this computer with the two floppies, I'm keeping like this because this was a beautiful one that was still in its original box, and it's not yellowed. You might notice that this one's yellowed, which sometimes people will do what's called retro brighting. A lot of this old beige equipment yellows over the years, and so there is the process that people do where they make a where you submerge the yellowed plastic in a bath that includes hydrogen peroxide, I believe, and expose it to ultraviolet light. The easiest way to do that is to do that on a sunny day and sit it outside. And then that lightens it. And that's been a way people have been restoring these things to look like new again. I'm not sure I'm going to do that with this one. I'm going to review my cases, try to find the best. This one I'm still kind of piecing together. I've yet to find quite the right floppy drive that's like the one that we had on our family computer. But this one, I just love how it is. And this one's been my fun one. And this one's been my retro one, which is why it's got the controller in it. And it's been my go-to to test vintage stuff. All right, our format is complete. So now we should be able to run sysc. And that puts the command, invalid parameter. Sysc colon? System transferred. Okay. So then I think we want to copy command.com to C. And then we want to make a DOS directory. There we go. A drive, we're going to copy asterisk dot asterisk to C6 drive / DOS / asterisk dot asterisk. And this DOS 211 has the typical commands that you find on a version of 2 of DOS, but it's also got at least 2 files that are specific to the hardware that we're dealing with here. And we'll go over those shortly. Okay. That is cool. And now I'm going to copy another file. I'm going to copy our patched clock file. Copy rtc.drv.exe C colon / rtc.drv.exe. Huh. I need to find the park command. Where is the park command? Does that come with DOS 3.30? Because I'm going to put this hard drive back in the basement, which means I'm going to move it around. So I do want to park it before I put it away. But I could deal with that tomorrow. So I need to find where my park command is. No, there's no park on there. Did I just copy that off of another hard drive and just been floating it around like that? Anyways, point is, I bought another XDID card. Its tracking says it'll be coming Monday. That'll go in this computer because this computer is kind of like as modernized as I could make it for fun. And that way it uses a compact flash card as a bootable device. So it gives me DOS 6.22. That gives me a lot more room. I have an EGA video card in this one, so I got better graphics there. So this is kind of, pushing it further than our family computer ever could. It's kind of like the theoretical upgrade we could have done if we were into upgrading hardware back then. And this one's going to stay true to the original, as true as I can. All right, let's check this floppy drive, see if we got a park command on here. Okay, park does not come with DOS 3.30. All right. Well, I'll just not move that hard drive around until I find a disk with park on it, because I know I got one somewhere. So anyways, at this point, we can power down, power this on with no floppy in the drive, and this is going to boot to ComputerLand DOS 2.11, although I've not made an auto-exec batch file yet. But we can do that shortly. So I've messed up the date and time on the date and time card. And our patched version of that software seems to not work to set it, but it works to read it and to set a year. Because the clock card on this computer only accepts a 2-digit year. So we're going to set the date here to June 6, 2026. And we're going to set the time to 2209. And I'm going to do prompt equals $P, $G. This time I'm going to type it correctly. And now we're going to go to CD /DOS, and we're going to do a directory on there. And we have a command called CP84, which has been well documented for quite some time as the command that lets us switch between high speed and low speed mode on this computer. So we do CP84 space -H, I believe. Nope, CP84 space H, no dash. Do not need to change. CP84 space L sets it to run at 4.77 megahertz, half speed, which if you have something that needs to run slower, some older software that's older than this computer, it's kind of like the turbo button that like 386s would have to slow it down to run old games. All right, so now we're going to do CP84 space H because we do want this to run at its full 8 megahertz. Wow, 8 megahertz. Okay, the other command we have on here is RTC3, which sets the clock card. Huh. It did not like that. All right, RTC3. All right. Error while adjusting time and day. Correct format is mm-day-day-yy space HH::MN. So yeah, it only The syntax only takes a 2-digit year. So we want to do RTC3 space S space 06 dash 06 dash 01, because 1901 will align leap year wise to our current year. And then we're going to set the time to 2212. Huh. It did not like that. Huh. Maybe I got that wrong, but that's what I recalled. All right, RTC DRV space R space 2026. Let's see what this does, what I expect it to do. No, it doesn't. All right, let's try setting it to 1980, because I know it likes that. Huh. Oh, so, all right, maybe it doesn't like that I'm doing single digits. RTC3 space 06 dash 06 dash 80 space 22:13. Maybe it doesn't want the S. Huh. All right, there we go. So I've set it to June 6th, 1901 at 10:13 p.m. And it errored at me that it doesn't like that date. And what I found out is even though RTC3.com will bark at you about setting a date earlier than 1980, it will accept 2-digit years lower than 80 as 19, whatever those 2 digits are. And the reason why it barks at you, I suspect, is because this operating system will not accept that year in its date. It will not accept a year lower than 1980, which means we set a value that will cause an error if we use it in its intended way. But we're not using it in its intended way because we also have on this drive the patched command, RTC DRV, that we do with a space R and a space 2026, which will read the value in our stored clock card on here, and we'll set the month and day and time based on the value that's stored in there, ignore the year of 1901, and set the year to the argument we put at the end of the command, which we specify with 2026. So that means I can now create an autoexec file that runs that command and tells it set the date and time based off what's in the card, but set the year to 2026. And then once a year, I have to update that to the right year. But I have been giving thought to it should be possible to script it to detect if the year has advanced and to change the value of the year, set the year as a variable that's stored in a text document and change that value based off of how much time has passed since it last booted, if it passed over another year. So I'm working on doing that so that it will, in theory, just last forever and I don't have to update it every year. But it's not a big deal if I have to update it every year. So I'm going to do copy con autoexec.bat. All right, so what's the first thing I'm going to want it to do? I'm going to want it to run RTC DRV space R space 2026. I'm going to want it to run CP84 space H. Although I think this version of DOS automatically boots to it in H, so I don't think we have to run that command. But I'd like putting it in there just to make sure we boot to high speed mode and not low speed mode. And then I like to clear the screen, CLS, and do a directory with the /W to give out a wide directory of everything that's in our C drive, because that's the way our family computer was configured to run and boot to DOS. All right, and we do a Control-Z to indicate we're done making our all-exec bat file. There we go. Now we can turn this off, turn this on. And we're getting our boot. It's doing that. It's setting the date and the time. Oh, you know what? I forgot a few things in our all exec bat file. All right, copy con auto. Oh, wait. Type auto exec bat. There we go. Copy con auto exec bat. So what do we want to do? We want to do RTC-DRV space R space 2026. We want to do C:\DOS /CP84 space H. We want to do prompt equals $$P $G. That gives us the C prompt that shows us what folder we're in. And then we want to clear the screen and directory wide. All right, I think that is what we want. Let's three-finger salute it. And what we've really done tonight here is we've proven that all our hard drives that we receive from Texas are not working right. And we've confirmed that with the known working hard drive, all the steps we were trying to do on those hard drives do work on known working hard drives. So I still think it's odd that I'm seeing them fail in a way I've not seen these drives fail before, and that they're like spinning up and acting like they want to work. But I really can't attribute it to anything other than those drives having problems. CLS isn't clearing the screen. DOS 2.11 doesn't honor the CLS command to clear the screen. That is weird. I could have sworn our family computer did that. Huh. Well, there we go. Anyways, where does that leave us? Well, I mean, I set up and configured this drive as if I was configuring it, but that's not really what I want to do, because we got to put this drive back in. I'm going to do that either tonight before I go to bed or tomorrow morning. And I think my next step is going to be to start doing some capacitor replacement on the boards of these drives and see if that makes any difference. Because maybe, I mean, the platters are spinning up and sound nice, and there's a lot of electronics on those boards. So there's a lot of failure points there that I can access without needing a clean room. So that gives me hope. Thank you for tuning in. If I don't see you all tomorrow, I will see you Monday, unless I don't. I don't know if Mars is going to be around. I haven't heard from Brian in a few weeks, so I don't know when I'm streaming next. but I'll send out a word message tomorrow, and we'll see what I hear back, and we'll go from there. So yeah. And for those on the Computer Bar channel, stay tuned. I do plan on doing some more work on these hard drives, and we'll provide more updates as more things happen. And plus, I still have those two Cystine CGA monitors on the floor there, which I got to get at least one of them in working condition again if I'm going to have my retro. It's as close to the same as I can get it, family computer up and running, because this CGA monitor, I'm lucky, I'm blessed that I still have a working CGA monitor among my collection, but it's not the one I want. But it's the one I need. But these down here are the ones I want, and I'm gonna have to start digging into them, and that I'm definitely gonna do with a camera on them, because the last time I took one of those apart, it didn't. It was worse when I put it back together. So I'm gonna take one of these apart carefully with the camera on it, so I can make sure every connection gets reconnected when I close it up. I probably need to recap it. I got to make sure I don't shock myself, discharge the CRT thoroughly. Doing writes in, I will let you know, but probably not. We'll see. Sorry. Hey, no apologies necessary. I hope we'll talk soon. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in, and you have a good night.